कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 5, text number 43 to 45. Shri Narada Uvacha Dharman Bhagavatan Itham Shrutvatha Mithileshwaraha Jayante Yan Munin Prita सोपाध्यायो हि अपूज्ययेत्। श्रीनारद उवाच धर्मान् भागवतानित्थं श्रुत्वा अथ मिथिलेश्वरः जायन्ते यान् मुनिन् प्रीता स उपाध्याय हि Swapadhyayo hi apujayat. Srinarada uvacha dharman bhagavatan itham shrutva tha mithileshwaraha jayante yan munin prita sopadhyayo hi apujayat. So, word to word translation. Shri Narada Uvacha, Narad Muni said, Dharman Bhagavatan, the science of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Itham, in this manner. Shrutva, having heard. Atha, then. Mithileshwaraha, the master of the kingdom of Mithila, King Nimi. Jayanteyan, the sons of Jayanti. Munin, sages. Pritaha, being satisfied. Sa Upadhyayaha, along with the priest. He, indeed. Apujayat, he offered worship. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Narad Muni said, having thus heard the science of devotional service, Nimi, the king of Mithila, felt extremely satisfied and along with the sacrificial priests offered respectful worship to the sagacious sons of Jayanti. Purport: the word Jayanteyan indicates the 9 Yogendras who were born from the womb of Jayanti, the wife of Rishabdev. We read the next shloka, text 44. Tato antardadhire siddha sarvalokasya pashyata raja dharman upatishtan avapa paramam gatim. Translation: the perfect sages then disappeared before the eyes of everyone present. King Nimi faithfully practiced the principles of spiritual life he had learned from them, and thus he achieved the supreme goal of life. Text 45. Tvam api etan mahabhaga dharman bhagavatan shrutan astita shraddhaya yukto nisango Yasya se param. Translation: O greatly fortunate Vasudev, simply apply with faith these principles of devotional service which you have heard, and thus, being free from material association, you will attain supreme. Narad Muni related to Krishna's father Vasudev the story of the enlightenment of King Nimi. Now, Narada reveals that Vasudev himself will also achieve the supreme perfection of life by practicing the same principles spoken long ago by the 9 Yogendras. Actually, Vasudeva was already a personal associate of the Supreme Lord, but due to his natural humility as a great devotee, he was determined to perfect his love of Krishna. Thus, we can observe the exalted status of the parents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ordinary persons feel that the Supreme Lord is always to be worshipped as the Supreme Father who supplies everything for the living entities. Such an attitude is not the perfection of love of Godhead, because when a son is young, he is incapable of giving much service to his mother and father. When the child is very young, it is rather the parents who are constantly serving the child. So when the devotees take the role of mother or father of Krishna, there is unlimited opportunity for rendering loving service to the Lord, whom the devotee ecstatically accepts as his son. It was Vasudev's good fortune that Narad Muni personally revealed to him the wonderful teachings given by the Nava Yogendras long, long ago to the saintly king Nimi. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are at the conclusion of this chapter, where Narad Muni concludes his teachings to Vasudeva. Now let us go back to the place where Vasudeva started speaking with Narad Muni. The situation was Lord Krishna was about to close his pastimes, and Vasudeva, apprehending the immediate wind up of Krishna's pastimes, he was little bit concerned about what will happen next. So at that time Narad Muni comes to his palace, and Vasudeva asked, how is it possible for me to attain the supreme destination, because I have always considered Krishna as my son. I never considered him to be the supreme person of Godhead. In that way I was cheated to consider him to be my son always. I never utilize my fortunate situation. So how can I overcome this problem and can worship Krishna as the supreme person of Godhead? How can I perfect my life in this way? So Narad Muni, he smiled a little and thought that how is it so different that Vasudeva, he himself is the father of the supreme person of Godhead, and he's still asking that I was cheated by not worshipping Krishna as the supreme person of Godhead. Factually speaking, Vasudeva is a perfected being, an eternal associate of the Lord. But here in this purport, it is given, the disciples of Prabhupada says that he was setting an example for general people like us, that we should always be ready to serve devotional service to the Lord, even though we may think that we are son or we are father of the supreme person of Godhead, whatever. So there is a question always arises between in understanding that how a person, he becomes engaged in serving Krishna in different rasa. So there are 5 different major rasa, as we all know: Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya and Madhurya. These 5 major rasa in which a living entity share devotional relationship with the Supreme Lord. Here we see in this case that Vasudeva is in the Vatsalya rasa, and being in the Vatsalya rasa, he always considered Krishna to be his dependent child and always tried to protect him or instruct him. So in that way we see that Vasudeva never actually worshipped Krishna in that sense. Just like, suppose, how is it possible for a father to worship his own son? It is not possible. So that because of that relationship, Vasudeva was thinking that everybody else is worshipping Krishna and I have not yet worshipped Krishna. So in that way, even though becoming a father of the Supreme Lord, I was bereft from devotional service. I never served Krishna. That was his humility, actually. Similarly, in our life also, sometimes people ask the question that generally people take sannyas or give up everything because they think that it is so entangling to be part of the family life that I am not able to focus on my devotional service. Let me give up everything, go into the forest, go into seclusion and become fully dedicated in the service of the Supreme Lord. That is how generally the people think, and that is how the Varnashram system also works. Varnashram system asks that at the age of 50, one should give up family life and go into the forest, accepting Vanaprastha ashram, so that one may not get entangled into family affairs again and can fully dedicate themselves to the Supreme Lord. But one person asked me the question, but Prabhu, what if the whole of the family members are devotee of Krishna? Is it still necessary to take sannyas? Can't a devotee stay in his family surrounded by all the devotees and can worship Krishna always? It's a very difficult question to say. That Varnashram system do say one should accept sannyas. But what if all the members of the family, everyone, wife, husband, daughters, children's, parents, everybody are wonderful and great devotees of the Lord? Then is it necessary to take sannyas or give up family life? Because we see Vasudev Devaki never took sannyas. And we see that certain cases, generally Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, they have also not taken sannyas because Krishna was their son. But there are certain instances, I will like to recite from Srimad Ramayana also. In Ramayana we see when Lord Ram returned back to Ayodhya after killing Ravana and Lord Ram was coronated as king. After that we see all the three queens of Dashratha, Kaushalya, Kaikeyi and Sumitra, they were absent from the whole episode. The episode of banishing Mother Sita. Where were they at that time? We read from Ramayana itself that after coronation of Lord Ram, all the three mothers of Lord Ram, they accepted Vanaprastha life. They went into jungle along with Vasishtha Muni to perfect their life. Now, it's a very difficult thing to understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is there itself in front of them. Then what is the need for the mothers of the Lord to go into jungle and perfect their life? That's why we don't see them in banishment of Sita episode at that place. The reason is that it is recommended to take to be detached from family life. One more example I will give. Ambarish Maharaj, he was very wonderful or big devotee of Lord, and we speak about a 9 process of devotional service in context with him, saying that he was practicing all the limbs of the 9 process of devotional service, all the limbs. But Srimad Bhagavatam says, at the time of retirement, he gave up everything and went to the forest. Why? If he could practice every limb of devotional service, every 9 limbs of devotional service, what was the need for him to give up everything and go to the forest? So, there are many such examples where great exalted devotees at some point of time, even though they were great exalted devotees, even though they have Supreme Lord as their son, appearing as their son, they have taken Vanaprastha life. What is the need, a reason like that? The reason is that most of the time it is expected for a devotee to worship Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes even if we are in the association of devotees, I gave the example of that all the people around us are devotees, all the family members are devotees, but there the relationship is prominent than a devotee relationship. Let's say your own son is a great devotee, your daughter-in-law is a very great devotee. So what is the relationship there? There is a high understanding that he is my son, she is my daughter-in-law, or they are my grandsons. That relationship is prominent. Even though they are devotee, the prominence is more on the relationship. So even though they are devotees, we still consider them to be our children. And that kind of mentality is very harmful for advancement. Even though they are devotees, but still, prominence of feeling is more on the relationship than the relationship with devotees. Again, like I gave the example of Lord Ramachandra, the mother, all the three mothers, they also went to Vashishta Muni's ashram for perfecting their life. The reason was that they were considering Lord Ram to be their child, more as a child, less as the Supreme Lord. So even though the Supreme Lord liked that kind of relationship, that is from his view, he likes it. But what is our duty? Just like example is given that Lord is hungry of devotion. He is not after what you give, but what you offer devotionally. That is what Bhavagrahi Janardana means. Janardana, or the Supreme Lord, accept the bhava of a devotee. So even if you offer a simple leaf, a simple flower with love and devotion, God will accept it because He accepts love and devotion. That's true. That is from His perspective. But does it mean that we should offer only a leaf or a flower? No. What is our responsibility? Our responsibility is to give whatever best possible thing which we can give and offer. That is our responsibility. Just like a mother is happy with a child's pranks and mischief, she is happy. But what is the responsibility of a child? Should he continue behave in the same mischievous way with his mother? No. It is a duty and responsibility of a child to behave in a nice way, in a respectful way. Even though mother do like the mischievous dealing with the child, but it is a duty and responsibility of a child to be respectful and obedient towards mother. So that is a difference between that is a difference in the relationship of having the Supreme Lord as a son, or in different relationship we have. But again, Krishna's will dominates actually. Krishna doesn't like such respectful and reverential behavior from his devotees. Krishna wants that let my devotee accept me as their son. They may chastise me, they may scold me, they may rebuke me, they may speak some words which makes them feel that they are more superior to the Supreme Lord. That is what Krishna likes. And devotee, the nature of a devotee is to behave in a way that pleases Krishna. So that's why the devotees, even though understand that he is a Supreme Lord, still the devotee behave as expected by the Supreme Lord. Just like Vashishta Muni knew Ramchandra is a Supreme Lord. He knew. But still he acted as the spiritual master of the Supreme Lord. He acted because he knew that this is what pleases the Supreme Lord. That's why he gave blessings to Lord Ramachandra. He accepted worship from Ramachandra. He accepted, paying obeisances, offering pranams by the Supreme Lord to Vashishta. Even Vishwamitra Muni played the role of a guru to Lord Ramachandra, even though Vishwamitra knew he is the Supreme Lord. So that is how a devotee like to behave in front of the Supreme Lord. But in heart of the hearts, all the devotees know and understand that there is a reverential behavior should also be there. So Vasudeva, even though he was a father of Lord Krishna, he was finding this thing lacking in him. He was thinking, I never consider Krishna to be the Supreme Lord, and in that way I was cheated. He was thinking in that way. Even though that was what expected by Krishna himself, but still he was thinking, I have never worshipped the Supreme Lord. How I can perfect my life? Even though he is a perfected being, he is thinking how I can perfect my life. That is the nature of a devotee. Devotee never thinks that I have advanced so much that now I don't need anything to practice in sadhana. He practices in sadhana even in the highest stage of devotional success. He practices all the basic things. So sometimes we may think that I need not practice such and such thing because now I am practicing bhakti for so long. I have developed some special connection with the Supreme Lord. Why should I follow such and such practices? There is no need. Of course, devotee never thinks in that way. Even though he is such a elevated soul, he will still practices the basic fundamental practices which a neophyte devotee also practices. That is how a devotee takes to devotion service, because he considers himself to be unfit to practice devotion. He always considers himself to be humble. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Hamara jivan sada pape rata nahi ka punya relation. He always used to consider that my life is full of sinful activities. Not even a single pious activity I have performed in my life. In that way, I have spoiled my whole life. If Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in that way, then where are we then? So, it is not that he is just writing those lines just to show that how wonderful poet he is. No, he was actually feeling in that way. So, sometimes we may also write poems, but our poems are mostly to have a rhyming words and to show off that how great devotee I am, that I am considering myself so to be so humble and so fallen. It may be just a pretension. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur was not like that. He was actually feeling like that. So what does it mean to feel actually and to pretend? So the pretension always comes with a understanding that when you are, that's why it is said, a person's character is known how he behaves or how he acts when he is alone. Because in front of big class, you may speak wonderful words and you may get a lot of accolades also for your speech. So one may think, oh, he is such a wonderful speaker, that means he must be a wonderful devotee. He may be able to speak so wonderful or act or perform nicely in front of all the people, but his real character is tested when he is alone. What he is doing when nobody is around him, what he is doing when he is away from all watching eyes. At that time, can he remain in that same consciousness? That is a real test of the devotee's character. So that's why it is said that one may not find a devotee by just his external appearance. If you really want to know who is a real devotee, try to get closer to him or her, and then you can understand how he behaves or acts when he is alone. You may say, but Prabhu, how we can know what he never stays alone or she never stays alone, and how we can go into the privacy? Not like that, saying alone in the sense not going into their room when they're alone. Not like that. Alone in the sense when nobody is around them, what kind of consciousness they are having. What kind of things, just like I will give an example that when a person is alone, what he's doing at that time. I remember there was my very senior Shiksha Guru when I was very new in Krishna consciousness. At that time, it so happened that in our brahmachari ashram there are certain bathrooms in which there was no latches. So sometimes it remains open, used to remain open. Bathroom in the sense washing bathroom, shower bathroom. So once I happened to just nudge inside the bathroom, and immediately there came the voice from inside, Krishna, like that. Immediately, a kind of a reflex response. And immediately a voice said that, can't you understand? You have to knock the door, somebody may be inside. So that is the reflex response shows what is your consciousness? Sometimes you may get, hurt by a stone while walking. So what comes out of your mouth immediately? The reflex. Is it, oh, oh God, or what somebody may say in Hindi, they say ma, or they say Marathi, I, or whatever. They call their father, they call their mother. If they get hurt or they get hit by something, immediately the first thing that comes unconsciously or as a reflex, that indicates your consciousness in one sense, one of the symptoms. Can you call Krishna if you got hit? Or if you are falling at place, or if you met with some accident at some place, what is the first word that comes out of your mouth as a reflex response? That indicates our consciousness also. Also, sometimes we see the devotees when they are alone, what they like to do. Some people like to go to sleep, just like I do. Many times when I am alone, I go to sleep. But there are certain devotees who like to sit and chant in seclusion. When we see such devotees, what they do generally, they do chanting, they read Prabhupada books, they hear a Bhagavad Katha, and in that way they are engaged themselves into devotional service. When they are alone, when nobody is around them, that again shows their consciousness. Otherwise, they would have, slept for a long time, or got busy with some other activity which is not directly devotional service. So that is how one can again see a person's character, what he is doing when he is alone. Because when you are surrounded by so many people, it is quite natural to behave in a devotee mannerism. It is quite natural. But what you do when you are alone is a real test. So here, why I am speaking all this thing? Because a devotee, in his consciousness, he is always engaged in devotional service. He never spares his time anywhere freely. He always in a mood of service. So here also Vasudeva is thinking that I have spent my whole life without worshipping Krishna. And Narad Muni, understanding the situation, he started speaking about Maharaj Nimi and the discussion between Nimi and Nava Yogendras about how to practice a devotional life, devotional service, being a king at that time. So Narad Muni instructed Vasudeva. So again, how can Narad Muni instruct the father of the Supreme Lord? It is not possible. He did as a duty. He did as a duty to set an example in front of all of us, so that we may understand that the nature of a devotee, even though he is an exalted personality, still he will practice the basic minimum or the basic stages of devotional service also. He will continue to do that. So from here, Vasudeva, after getting this information from Narad Muni, he engaged himself completely in worshipping the Supreme Lord, Krishna. And we know after this incident, Narad Muni goes to the place where there was a discussion between, there was an assembly of wonderful sages and rishis, and at that place, the son of Lord Krishna, Samba, he performed some naughty act, and because of it, the sages become upset and curse him that your belly will produce iron mace which will annihilate the whole Yadu dynasty. This happened after this incident only. So all this situation came up. I was just reading that how the future incident happened. It was very interesting. I would like to share because the important point is already covered from these 3 verses. I was reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. I wanted to know that what was it that gave rise to the fight between the Yadus itself. It was quite interesting. So there were, as you all know, there were total 9 personalities those were alive after the battlefield of Kurukshetra. You know that there are 5 Pandavas and Krishna from the one side, and three personalities from Kaurava side. Do you know who were they? Sorry, 10 people. 7 people from Pandava side and 3 people from Kaurava side were living even after the battle and war. From Pandava side, the 5 Pandavas, Krishna and Satyaki was remaining. They were alive. From Kaurava side, there was Kripacharya, Ashwathama and Kritavarma. They were alive. So Kritavarma and Satyaki happened to be Yadus. Kritavarma is a Yadu and he was fighting from Kaurava side. Satyaki was also Yadu from Yadu dynasty and he is fighting from Pandava side. So how is it that the Kritavarma took side of Kauravas like Duryodhan? So Kritavarma happened to be the commander-in-chief of the Narayani Sena which Krishna gave to Duryodhan at that time. As we all know that when Duryodhan and Arjuna came to ask his help, Arjuna took Krishna and Duryodhan took his Narayani Sena. So Kritavarma was handling the Narayani Sena and that's why he was fighting from the side of Duryodhan. Whereas Satyaki, being the disciple of Arjun, he was so much attached to Arjun that even though Lord Krishna said none of the Yadus will fight in this war, still he was so adamant to fight for his martial teacher Arjuna that he neglected the orders of Krishna itself. So Satyaki also fought from the side of Pandavas. So these two personalities were fighting from opposite ends. Satyaki from Pandava's side and Kritavarma from Kaurava's side. Now it was so interesting that when the war was over, after 35 years of the war, there was a great yajna that happened outside Dwarka at Prabhas Kshetra. There, all the Yadus, especially all the male members of the Yadu dynasty, they were assembled to perform the yajna. And why they were performing yajna? It was Krishna's instruction to perform the yajna. Why Krishna instructed this performance? Because they came to know that the sages gave curse to Samba for the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. So Krishna instructed Ugrasen Maharaj that we cannot nullify the curse of sages, but we can at least dilute down that effect of this curse. And for that purpose, Krishna asked them to perform a yajna. So that's why everybody went to Prabhas Kshetra to perform a yajna. And after the performance of yajna, of course, there is a Soma Rasa that was available. Now, not the Som Rasa from yajna, it was actually a rice liquor that was there in the yajna. And it is allowed for the Kshatriyas to drink liquor after the yajna performance. So all the Yadu dynasties, Yadu members were engaged in drinking this rice wine or rice liquor. And in that diluted stage, when everybody was drinking, Satyaki and Kritavarma started to argue about something. Because in the fight, there was a big fight in Mahabharata war, and Satyaki killed an old king, Bhurishrava. Bhurishrava was killed by Satyaki when Bhurishrava was completely, has kept his, weapons on the ground and was not in a position to fight. At that time, Satyaki killed Bhurishrava. So seeing that thing, Kritavarma scolded, and and there was an argument that started between Satyaki and Kritavarma at that yajna place. Kritavarma was abusing Satyaki, saying that what kind of warrior you are. You killed an old man when he was not having weapon in his hand. What kind of warrior you are? And Satyaki started to argue that Oh, he was about to kill me and I killed him to protect myself. So in that way, there was a big argument. At some point, that argument went such a wrong direction that both were started fighting. So how this what to say, a spark of war started? It's because of these two people, Satyaki and Kritavarma. Both started fighting. Initially, it started with argument, then it started with a fight. And since it started with the fight, of course, Satyaki had his own followers, 1K follower, 10K followers, or subscribers in our words. Kritavarma had his own followers, and both took the side of each other and started fighting. And the fight went in such a way that initially all of their weapons they have utilized, and when all the weapons are finished, they took up this iron bamboos which was grown on the side of the shore of a sea, which was washed away on the seashore when the same iron club that was thrown into water in a powder form, it came to the shore and became iron sticks, grown like iron stick, and they used the same iron stick to kill each other. And when Krishna and Balram came to mediate between this fight, these Yadu people started hitting Krishna and Balram also. So Krishna and Balram took up the stick again and started killing everyone. So Krishna and Balram killed all the Yadus. So in this way, all the Yadu dynasty was wiped off at that time. So what thing we can learn from here? Of course, it is sometimes people may say, oh, it is allowed for a Kshatriya to drink liquor when it is offered in Yajna. See what has happened. The whole dynasty was wiped off. Sometimes people say, oh, for a Kshatriya gambling is allowed. See what happened to Yudhishthir Maharaj and Draupadi. So when we see in the scripture such incidents where great devotees themselves involved into sinful behavior, it is not that it is allowed for a devotee, but it is to show that if a devotee is involved, or whoever it may be, whether he is a devotee, still he will have to suffer the consequences. So that is how the Shastras make use of devotees' example to set a standard for practicing devotees. So one has to be very careful. So why I am saying this thing, that how this war has started, because this will happen after just few days after this incident, it will happen. And then from there, all the people died. Arjuna was there at that time in the Dwarka. Krishna instructed Arjuna to take all the queens of Krishna and small children back to Mathura. And Arjuna accepted that proposal. He took them to Mathura. In between, some cowherd men fought with Arjuna and stole away the queens of Krishna, some queens of Krishna, not all the queens of Krishna, because there were two parties. One party was with Arjuna and another party was with Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit was also carrying some queens of Krishna. So he was successful in reaching Mathura at that time, but Arjuna's party met with this fight with the cowherd men. So those queens who were with Arjuna, those were kidnapped by the cowherd men. And in the purport of this 11th canto, it is mentioned that those cowherd men were none other than expansion of Krishna himself, who stole away the queens of Krishna in order to fulfill the curse of Ashtavakra Muni, I feel. Ashtavakra Muni, to fulfill that curse. Okay, so that was the whole incident, the pastime that has happened, and we see the further situation which will come up in this discussion. The 11th canto is very wonderful because after this there is the Krishna is going to end up his pastime. At that time, Uddhava approaches Krishna. He was very much aggrieved to know that Krishna is going to end of his pastime. And it's very interesting to have a parallel between Uddhav Gita and Bhagavad Gita. Uddhav Gita and Bhagavad Gita is almost like two sisters of instructions. But Uddhav Gita is more elaborate than Bhagavad Gita also. Both have almost the same. If you read Uddhav Gita, the instruction of Krishna to Uddhava, you will find that it is almost like Bhagavad Gita's instruction to Arjuna. But it is more in detail. There is more to it in detail. So, Uddhava will approach Krishna and Krishna will instruct Uddhava. There is one minor difference between these two, that Arjuna wanted to get detached and take a renounced life. And Krishna instructed him to perform the duty of a Kshatriya. Whereas in Uddhava's case, Uddhava wanted to be with Krishna, but Krishna is saying take renunciation. So Krishna speaking Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna majority was to practice duty-oriented instructions. Where to Uddhava, Krishna is saying, don't be attached to Yadu dynasty or to me also. Don't be attached to me, attached to my instructions. That is more important. So Uddhava also wanted to complete his life in this world because he cannot bear the separation from the Lord. So he wanted to go along with Krishna to the spiritual abode. But Krishna said, no, you have to follow my instructions. So what Bhagavad Gita and Uddhav Gita teaches? They teaches more to follow what Krishna says. It is a practice of Vani than be in the association of Vapu. Vapu means staying in personal association with the Guru or with Krishna himself. But Krishna is emphasizing more not to be a personal associates or not to be in personal association always, but more important is to practice what? Practice his teachings. That is more important. So Krishna instructed Uddhava to be attached to his instructions. And even Krishna told Arjuna to practice his instructions only, but in a different way. To Arjuna, it is in a sense of a duty, and for Uddhava, in a sense of a renunciation, means giving up family attachment. That's how the things are. So that was my understanding of this 3 verses. It was more on the storyline than the instruction line. Hare Krishna. I hope there are no questions, only comments are accepted. Yes. No. Yes. So initially the first chapter itself gives the detailed understanding of that Mausal Leela. First and second chapter again. So yes, after this Uddhava Gita will start. So it is not in chronological order, but I am just giving the chronology of how it had happened. Okay. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapuran ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.